Show you got heart. Now we're playing the game and we're totally scoring. Learning how to make a virtual business boring. Showing up every morning, ready for the show. I'ma get ready. Cold engaging virtual meetings 2.0.
Happy Monday. Welcome to another episode of the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast. What's happening right now? Oh, we're just excited because our National Speakers Association's Northwest chapter just held its board meeting. And so we are planning all new ways to engage people around speaking and around meetings for the next year. Hey, if you're watching on social media, make sure and subscribe, share, like, or comment. If you make a comment live here, we might give you a shout out while you're here. To get all the episodes, you want to go to engagingvirtualmeetings.online, and you can get this podcast in 13 of your favorite podcast locations. A new episode drops Wednesday every single week. And if you want to learn how to be more engaging in your meetings, in your speaking, and whatever it is that you do, you can come to the Engaging Conference October 28th through the 30th, where we already have at least one Hall of Fame speaker. Who's confirmed now for that program. Watch for those announcements. You can go to engagingvirtualmeetings.com/CON or go to this QR code and register there. Speaking of Hall of Fame, our next guest, he's the founder of the Accountability Institute. He's the author of 12 books, including The Accountability Advantage, and he's one of only 125 Hall of Fame speakers in the world. I just had brunch with him in St. Louis. Let's welcome Sam Silverstein. Hi, Sam.
Hey, John, it's great to be here.
It is so great to be here. And again, thank you for hosting the breakfast that we had in St. Louis. It was really great. You know, you and I, we were talking about that, right? We've been kind of crossing paths, but we never really got the chance to sit down and just talk and meet with each other. And we got the chance to do that in St. Louis.
It was great. It was great. It was a lot of fun. It was great to talk shop. It was great to get connected personally. And that's how we learn and grow, and it was fun. And that's why we're here today. So I'm excited.
Well, outstanding. And so I got a few of my friends, amazingly enough, Sam, who don't know who you are. So why don't you just take this first moment and share who you are and what you do?
Oh, my goodness. Well, I'm Renee Silverstein's husband, and I'm Jeff, Jackie, Sarah, and Allison's dad. So first and foremost, that's who I am. Beyond that, I've had a life in business, and some 30 plus years ago, I wrote my first book, decided to start helping others make a difference in their business. And since then, actually, the bio that I sent you must be wrong, because we've got 13 books out. Number 14 comes out in a couple of months. Number 15 is already scheduled for next year. And what I do is, as the founder of the Accountability Institute, we help leaders become better leaders and build sustainable workplace culture that inspires people to be their best and choose to be accountable.
Wow. Thank you, Sam. And so now you get a fun chance to update your bio. I'm working on book number 3 right now. And so very impressive that you have 13, 14, 15 in there. So, Sam, you know, why accountability? Where in your life did you finally figure out that accountability is the thing? Because I think it encompasses probably all the other challenges that you may have seen while you're working with companies.
Well, I used to speak on a variety of topics, and nobody knew what I did. No one could recommend me because I did everything, you know, whether it was sales, personal development, creative marketing, strategic planning. You know, I had done this in my professional career. I'd done these things, and so now I'm speaking on all this, and I I was inspired by a fellow speaker, Joe Calloway, to in his words, to pick a lane. And when I started thinking about it and looked at everything that I did, really where I felt the foundation was that drove everything was accountability, and that and that's foundational. You want more trust, it's going to come from accountability. You want better customer service, it's going to come from accountability. And what it turns out is accountability really is something that is not mandated. It's inspired within a workplace culture. So all of a sudden, all these years later, I woke up and I'm seen around the world as a workplace culture expert that knows how to build a culture that inspires accountability. So when you put your blinders on, I don't care what it is that you're doing, when you put your blinders on and you stay in one lane, what happens is you continuously go deeper, 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 and you start to discover things you would have never discovered otherwise.
Yeah.
And that's what happened.
Well, it sounds like, it sounds obvious now. One of the first things you join NSA is you will hear phrases like, there are riches in the niches, right? But it sounds like, Sam, you actually lived that lesson. Like, it took a period of time before you really decided that. And I'm curious, what changed after you finally decided to pick a lane?
Wow. John, everything changed. I started,
Right.
I started meeting people that I had no idea that existed. I started meeting people I should have never met. I'm in St. Louis and I'm meeting someone in Amarillo, Texas, and our lives are getting intertwined and I'm being exposed to things. And really it comes down to the fact that I accepted that accountability is where I was supposed to live. And John, I will tell you, I came to the belief that the message of accountability was something that was gifted to me to share. I don't own it. I didn't invent it, but I am the steward of that message. And
Yeah.
when you look at things differently, when you look at people differently, you treat them differently, you commit to that differently, and you get a different result. And once my commitment changed, the result changed. And so now everything I do, even though, I'll write a book all about workplace culture, but accountability is laced through it.
Right.
The next book coming out is Be Astonishing, and its accountability is laced all through it. So it just helps me get to a place that I would have not otherwise gotten to.
What's a company culture you'd want to give a shout out to? Like there are some people, you can talk about culture all day long, but I think you know probably one or two companies who really live their culture. I'm just curious who you might want to give a shout out to.
Well, we all know the common ones that people talk about, like a Nordstrom or maybe a Chick-fil-A in some markets, or even now on the rebound, you're seeing the culture come back to life at Starbucks. But those are the ones that people know about. But, we work with a lot of smaller, middle-sized organizations that aren't well known, that are creating these amazing cultures that people want to be a part of. And part of our inspiration came from a bank in Texas called Happy State Bank that just had this amazing culture where people never left. They just never left. And there was a reason for that. And the then CEO and president of the bank, J. Pat Hickman, created a culture that people wanted to be a part of. They wanted to recommend it to their family and friends. And when that happens, then people go above and beyond. They work harder. They get things done. And we create an assessment. Actually, we measure culture. We measure accountability in the culture, and you can connect it straight to the bottom line. It's absolutely fascinating to see how that works.
Yeah, I was just sharing, I think maybe during our breakfast, that I worked at Microsoft and I worked on retention at one point, and somebody did a study and it says to replace a 7-year or more employee at Microsoft costs $1 million. And that's like 1999, right? This is 26 years later. It's got to cost more than that now. And
So how many Bitcoins is that?
one, one pizza. It's that one pizza that you spent it on.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that we worked on too is I got a chance to work on a retention program that's we got 123 people to stay out of 125 people who were thinking about leaving, and really change that process. And I'm just curious, like, what advice, we have a lot of business owners actually too that are a part of this audience, Sam. What's the number one either challenge you see and the solution you give them? And I'm pretty sure it's related to accountability, but if there's some tangible tip in there, I'd love to hear what it is.
Cultures that attract and retain people are cultures that are built on an amazing set of values. Now,
Yes.
most leaders will say, we have values. Maybe they've identified the values, but most organizations, the values are part of a marketing program or a rebranding effort. It's not what they truly believe. The actions and the values don't align. Great organizations have a great set of values. Not great values, a great set. And there's a specific way to create a great set. And when you have a great set and it's lived, you have a culture that will always attract and retain the best people. And so it's going to go through the values. Now, leaders historically think that they're closer to the bullseye than they are. They think they've got it figured out. We discover, because we look at data, and that's why we created the culture audit, is to actually measure what's going on. We discover they're not as close as they think they are. But if they want to be in the bullseye, if they want that kind of culture, then it's very simple. Not easy, but it's simple how to get there.
Well, this is useful too. And many audits, I think, or research studies that I've seen too, is that managers and leaders rank themselves higher than the actual things that their teammates say. So it's hard to know when to do some of these things. So I want to shift a little bit because I do want to know too, Sam, you probably did a lot of your work maybe in person, although I'm not sure. Maybe you did a lot virtual. But I'm curious, what happened to you on March of 2020, and how did you handle it, being the business owner that you are?
Oh, that's interesting, and I'll tell you what happened. I got a call from a friend in South Africa, and now I'd been using Zoom for a while. I'm pretty tech savvy, and I enjoy this kind of stuff, but he called me up. And when he called on a Zoom call, when he called me up, he's standing in front of a wall. There's a TV behind him. There's branding on this LCD screen. And he basically was showing me his new Zoom studio. And I knew it. He says, "This is the room you were sleeping in when you were here just a few months ago." And he had taken this bedroom and he had turned it into a studio. And the TV that was on the opposite wall from the bed was now behind him. And I looked at this thing, and every light in my house came on simultaneously. And I realized that's just it. It was a mind-blowing experience. And I realized in that moment that we had to figure this out, because this is where things were going to go. And that's when I realized, I said, I don't need an office anymore. I need a studio. And everything I do is in that studio. And so that's when I started to build the very first version of that studio.
That's amazing. Now I do remember you told me a little bit over this at breakfast, and that it's so great. I think it's so important too to be inspired, but sometimes you got to be inspired by somebody else, right? And they show you the way. And once they show you the way, again, it's easy. This is why coaching is so many people are into coaching, because where everyone wants the shortcut to get here, and sometimes it's not even the shortcut. It's like the rest of us. We know that we're supposed to, diet and exercise, but the person who helps you and makes you do that or inspires you to do that, I think is way more valuable than the person who just tells you about that.
Absolutely. But you know what? We've seen this through time, through history.
Yes.
We're exposed to something, and we don't take action. We just keep going. And
we put it on a bookshelf. That's what I tell people, right?
Exactly. And you know what? I still get on Zoom calls with people today who are looking down at their laptop, the camera that's on their laptop. And I've told more than one friend, I don't particularly get any joy out of looking up your nose. And so it's like, if you can't even elevate your camera to eye level, I mean, are you in this business? Are you even in this business? And early on, it's one thing when you create a studio, but then my mother was later in life. She had 24/7 health care. She had a 2-bedroom apartment in a senior living facility. And I needed to go down there from time to check on her to help take care of her. But business had to go on. And so I'm in the second bedroom and there's a nightstand and I'm taking the nightstand and I'm putting it on the bed.
Yes.
I'm no joke. I'm putting the nightstand on the bed so I can put the laptop on top of that so I can get it to eye level. She had a bookcase behind me, and because she's my mom, she had several of my early books. So I took those books out and faced them out, and I created an on the road studio, if you would, that I could hold
Yes.
some Zoom calls or that I could broadcast from if we were going live or something. So, you have to embrace ideas. You have to take it serious, and to me, if you're going to show up and do it well. And so I'm not perfect. I don't always get it right. With technology, things can go wrong, but doggone it, put your best foot forward.
Yeah, one of the newest things that I give is that, well, I used to use that. One of my other favorites too is if you can remove drawers from a hotel room, they turn upside down into boxes, and that's a way to elevate. The other favorite one is adjustable ironing boards, because they can go to any height, and that can actually get you to eye level. And again, the camera doesn't see any of that stuff. But
Right.
now I ship in my toolkit like a $5 laptop stand, and what it does is it elevates your laptop so that the camera is at eye level. So traveling
I
is
travel
not,
with that.
the traveling is not the excuse. It's about having the proper tools. Speaking of the proper tools too, Sam, I'd love to hear, what has to happen for you to be engaging in a virtual meeting. And I know that you have some cool tech, so if you can incorporate that cool tech somehow, we can show people some different things these are things that are not even in my personal studio.
Well, this
There we go.
doesn't have to happen, but if this can help a meeting be pretty cool and awesome when you do have this kind of technology.
Yes.
So it's nice to have tools at your fingertips. What has to happen? I think the first thing that has to happen, John, is you have to think about the person on the other end. What's going to make this program something that's engaging for the participant? What's going to make it valuable? I think content is always king. You've got to have great content. And you need to be engaging like any presentation. But, if I'm in a room with 1,000 people, I'll come off the stage and I'll walk into the audience and talk to people. Well, if we're doing it this way, then I'm going to use the chat window and I'm going to ask specific questions. I'm going to have them throw their answers into chat. Not only am I going to look at the answer, I'm going to look at the names of the people as they're responding. Oh, Susie just said that she likes that, and I want to involve the people and make them feel like they are part of what's going on. And I think it's a consideration thing. And I think that in a virtual environment today, there's a level of authenticity. If you try to make it too perfect or too plastic, that's not real. And so you need to be able to look off and you need to be able to look away. And sometimes you can look down for what you're looking for. And sometimes you can fumble. It doesn't have to be perfect. In this situation, I'm using a teleprompter, and I don't use the teleprompter as a teleprompter to read a script, but I put the Zoom window on the teleprompter. So when I put my Zoom window on a teleprompter, I can look at you. We can talk for hours, but my eyes are going right into the lens. They're going right into you. I don't have the camera over here and the screen over here. So I'm being considerate for the person that's there. They want to make eye contact. If they want to make eye contact when I'm in a stage with 500 people or 2,500 people, they certainly want to make eye contact here.
Yeah, he's using the Elgato prompter too, something I do advocate for. Not sponsored yet, but those Elgato people, we should, because all the top speakers are using it. It has a video screen incorporated into it, which can, again, become a video screen. The top thing I do is run Zoom where the active speaker is always in that window. The other thing that you can do is if you're teleprompting, you can put things in there. So I like right now, I actually am writing notes about something with Sam, but when I'm writing these notes, it looks like I'm looking right credit, Sam. These are all really top important things that are in there. Sam, let's talk about this vibe board too. I know you have this vibe board behind you. A few of my friends have them. I don't currently own one, but I'm just curious what features you love about your vibe board.
I got this early. I got this vibe board, paid for it with my own money. Early on, it became maybe the third version of my studio, and actually, I mentioned to you that Vibe just reached out to me a week or so
Oh, that's
ago,
right.
and they want to send me a new updated one, because they love my videos on leadership and culture and the way that I use their Vibe board, and so they want to send me a new one, and so I guess they now. I guess they think I'm an influencer or something like that, but what the heck. I use the Vibe board in a couple of ways, and one of the ways is simply to bring my presentation into what I'm doing. And so if I come over here, I can talk about our certified accountability program. I can actually and Vibe. I can bring slides in, or if I want, I can go back to it. And when I go back there, and I'm moving around with a lot of technology here, I can go back to it. And we can talk. Since I haven't
By the
done
way,
this today,
this
I,
just
I, I'm
this validates Sam's point, which is that this program is live, right? I told Sam that we're actually broadcasting live here. There's no editing, right? We're going to go through this and watch technology work live, mainly to show too, like authenticity trumps perfection all the time.
Well, exactly. And I haven't written on it in a couple of days, so I wasn't set up to do that. But I can go on it and write on it. I can use it for slides. I can switch back and forth. I can go back to the branding backdrop if that's what I want to do. I use the Vibe board a couple of ways. One, here, this is really cool. Watch this.
Okay.
Now, normally I have a secondary mic that's set up back there, which is this mic. And so let me show you. Something changed.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, so that's what's on the Vibe board. Now, this is a set of pictures, and I can give a link out, and we did this with countries in the Middle East, for instance, and did a virtual program. I can give links out to different groups. Each breakout room in Zoom gets a different link. They have a different set of pictures, and they have a set of instructions of what they're doing. And we helped a company design their entire culture, figure out what all their values were, all over Zoom calls using the Vibe board and the interactivity that you can create with the Vibe board.
Oh, I didn't know that Vibeboard actually had sharing in it too. So again, Miro and Mural are other apps to do that. But by doing that, you too can view into multiple breakout rooms results, right? And switch between whatever they're doing.
Exactly. So I can set all that up on the Vibe board, and have different groups using different links. And each of those links go into a separate document. They can move things around. They can group things. Each group can do their own thing. And it's a great whiteboard. Let me tell you, about, I don't think it was a week after the Vibe board came out. A Saturday morning, it's 4:30. I'm sound asleep. And I kid you not, right in my ear, I hear, just like you're right here, I hear E equals MC squared. No joke. And I just, it wakes me up. And so I try to go back to sleep, and I hear E equals MC squared. And I laid there for about a half an hour, and finally I got out of bed. I came down here, turned on the vibe board, and 45 minutes later on that whiteboard, I had put the entire outline and deep level content
Oh,
for for
oh,
for an entire book, all
oh.
based off of E equals MC squared, which we all know that's the theory of accountability. Now, some people think it's the theory of relativity and that Einstein had something, but it's the theory of accountability. I can prove it. And anyway, so right there, when the pandemic's coming out and things are shutting down, my publisher rushed a book to market because there was no product coming out. And
Yes.
we had this book done in 60 days. And it was all because I was able to figure it all out on that vibe board at like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday morning.
This is the part that AI may never learn, which is having an epiphany, right? This is the unique part about an human brain, which will come together, take your lifetime experience, right, and dump it in like, a day or two. So that's really fantastic. I just want to let you know, too, that Glenn Miller is tuning in, and he says, best wishes from Australia. So your Aussie is in the house.
I love that.
Yeah, thank you, Sam, for toying around with that. And it is great. In a case like that, too, while the Vibe Board is kind of on the slightly more expensive side, that easily would have paid for the entire board to be able to capture all of that knowledge in a way that works for you, right? The human input part, right? Other speakers like our good friend Ana Liada takes iPads and telestrates iPads during the middle of her class. And again, allows to add this human factor back into a digital medium. And I think that's another key important when you mix those two, right?
I've actually done that too. And it was a technique that I saw. I scoured early on. I had already been on YouTube. I mean, I already had videos out, but I already scoured and I started watching gamers on YouTube.
Yes.
And how they were setting up their gaming setups and their studios and their lights and I mean, one of the big you mentioned Elgato early on. They were making products for streamers. That's where they were.
Yep.
And so their products were perfect for us, for me as a professional speaker, as someone who was working with audiences around the world. And I started looking for ways to incorporate their products into what I do. I'm the first person I know, a professional speaker, that used like a Stream Deck. So now we got Stream Decks all over the place. And so again, these tools are there, but you've got to use them. You have to be open to it. And when someone says, well, I'm just not very techy, then I don't even know how to respond to that.
I know how to respond to that, right? You think you're not a techie. Patricia Fripp, at her amazing age and place of excellence, is using a Stream Deck every single day.
There you go.
So
and now I have, I got this little guy, for instance. It folds up flat. And on Wednesday, when I head out of town, this will be in my suitcase. And because I got to have that for my little portable setup, and it'll be great.
I do too, Sam. So yeah, so much technology. And if you didn't see, this was my latest thing, is that one of my friends, DJ Will Gill, showed me how to include GIFs into my Zoom meeting, and I laughed so hard. I'm like, oh, it's so easy. I got to do this, right? So again, he got inspired, and I just, for those who get inspired, by the way, make sure and give a shout out to the people who did it. All right, speaking of shout outs, Sam, since you have so much technology and you got a chance to be part of the future, what happens next? What would you love to see, 10, 15 years out on virtual or hybrid for you?
Well, look, I'm not gonna tell you something that's not true. And the truth is, my heart always wants to be on a stage. I'd rather be there live with people. I want to be with people. I want to be in the room. where the ahas are happening. I want to see the light bulbs come on. I want to have the ability to go one-on-one with people after a program, before a program. I think that's important. And so, when you talk about virtual and hybrid, that I think it's important to say that I think it's important to maintain our in-person meetings to the best of our ability. Now, there are times when a virtual program is the only way. There are times when a virtual program is necessary. There's a time constraint. There's a monetary constraint.
Yes.
There's a geography constraint, and we need to get after it. So, what do I want to see? I guess I want to see we can come up with all sorts of neat technology to make the screens fancier and special effects, and money comes down and side effects, sound effects, and all that's fine. And there's nothing wrong with using that in moderation, but it's still about the human connection. And so I don't know that I have a definitive answer on the solution, but the question is, how do we continue to make virtual meetings improve the human connection? How can I be better connected to you? How can you be better connected to me? How can I better connect and touch the people in the room, in the virtual room? That to me is what's important. And that connection is what's going to drive the transformation in someone's life, someone's organization, someone's community. So I'm always open to ideas of ways to drive a deeper connection between human beings. And when you're doing that through technology, I think that that's naturally a challenge, but if we're asking the right questions, then we have the opportunity to generate the right answers.
Yeah, the only thing I think I thought about too while you're talking was I'm sure you might ponder the question, how could technology or the future help humans be more accountable to themselves and to others?
Yeah. So here's the thing. That question doesn't really come up to me, and I'll tell you why. Because first of all, and I'm not going to say I'm the only one, because that would just kind of be ridiculous. But most people see accountability as a way of doing, and we believe that accountability is a way of thinking. Specifically, it's how you think about people. So I believe that you're responsible for things, you're accountable to people. The job report, that sales report, boss, that you need by Friday, that report's not going to hold me accountable, but you will. But the reality is, nobody wants to be held accountable. That's when leadership is holding people accountable, that's trying to manipulate someone to do more for you. Accountability is not about manipulation. It's not about getting things done. That's your job. That's your responsibility. But accountability is keeping your commitments to people, but the relational commitments, not the tactical ones. And so that's why. And relational commitments are a commitment to live the values, a commitment to stand by you when all hell breaks loose, a commitment to it's all of us, which means if you fail, I fail. Only when you succeed do I succeed. And when you build these relational commitments, which goes back to a contribution to a relationship, that's when accountability flourishes. That's when I'd rather die than let you down, because I know, John, you'd rather die than let me down. That's not transactional, that's relational. So to the degree that you can create technology that's going to enhance a relationship, and that's what I said before was about making better meetings and making that relationship, that's where accountability will flourish.
Well, what I love too is when I had breakfast with Sam, we got into a big discussion, as you can see where Sam's passion starts to lie, around like speaker reviews versus speaker results are two totally different things, right? And that speaker results doesn't necessarily, or speaker feedback, the speaker, whatever, the ratings don't necessarily mean results unless something else happens. But all right, well, meanwhile, Sam, we're going to head to this fun new section of my podcast too. While I was writing, while listening to you, I wrote a number of speed questions. So if you're okay with it, I'm going to ask you some speed questions. play some funny sound, and we're going to try and answer these questions as fast as you can. Are you okay with that?
Do I have a choice?
Yeah, of course you always have a choice. You can say
No,
pass.
I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine.
But you're Sam. I know that you could enjoy. I think you'll enjoy this part. Okay. Someone else's favorite niche or lane. Not yours, but someone else.
Customer experience.
Ooh, good one. Speaker, you want to give a shout out to?
There's thousands. Allison Van Hooser.
Ooh, good one. That's a good one. Okay, best technology this year.
Technology this year. It continues to be the advancement of AI, and it's not this year, but I'm kind of getting pulled into the Meta glasses, the Ray-Ban sunglasses.
Ooh.
I'm thinking because that's going to go in a direction we're going to see a lot coming up in the months ahead.
I have worn a pair, but have not used them every day. Business owner that you respect.
Business owner that I respect. J. Pat Hickman, Happy State Bank, who passed away actually just a couple of months ago. And I've never seen anyone treat people the way that he treats people, create a culture on a set of beliefs the way that he does it. He was a big influence in my life, and he influenced a lot of people at Happy State Bank.
Oh, that's a great shout out. The coolest value of a set.
The what?
The coolest value. You said that you got to create a set of values while we were talking.
The coolest value?
Yeah, coolest value.
Well, it would be one of Happy State Bank's values, and it would be the acronym PDI, which stands for produce, damn it.
Side note, I got to meet the people who worked at Lagunitas Brewery, and they had the biggest stoner culture. That's why all the people who brewed beer were like super stoners, and they were able to maintain that culture while selling out to Heineken for $1 billion. What's one of your favorite What's one of your favorite people on the other end?
On the other end?
Yeah, the other end of a call, the other kind of a meeting, other end of a video. You said I had needed to think about the other person on the person on the other end. If I was going to start on engaging, the first person to think of is the person on the other end.
I like people that are willing to turn their camera on and ask questions and engage.
There you go. Engage people. Good. I love that. What has been your best Father's Day?
My best Father's Day were the Father's Days where I was a father and my father was alive.
Aww. Oh, well, thank you for that. And what's a wish you have for 2025?
I wish people would stop and think about their own personal values, and then every comment they make and every decision that they make, ask themselves, am I stepping out the values, the things that I say I believe? Are my decisions, my actions, and my words truly in alignment with those values?
Sam, thank you so much for investing a little bit of your time with me here and my friends on the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast. You have a final word for this year, or final word for our guests who are watching today?
Embrace opportunity. Look for ways to grow and be better. If every day we just get a little bit better, either professionally or personally, what a wonderful place we'll create.
Outstanding. Thank you, Sam, and I look forward to seeing you. I think I'm going to see you in Arizona or somewhere else, maybe back in St. Louis very, very soon. So
can't wait, John. Thanks for having me on. It's been a pleasure. Anytime.
Thanks, Sam. All right, this is John Chen. We've been talking with Hall of Famer Sam Silverstein, and holy cow, his number one question to you is, what are your values? What do you value? Right? We think about too, what if you changed one of your values, and how would your life change along with them? Meanwhile, I hope this podcast has changed you, right? Subscribe, share, and like, and comment like our good friend Glenn Miller from Aussie, oi, 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 and we'll give you a shout out. You can also go to engagingvirtualmeetings.online and find all of these podcasts. One new episode gets released every Wednesday. And if you want to be more engaging, come to our conference, engagingvirtualmeetings.com/CON. 2025 will be October 28th through the 30th here live in Seattle, because you heard it here from Sam. Live is valuable, and we also give you the option of hybrid. Scan the QR code, and if you want to be like Sam, you do want to be like Sam, go to engagingvirtualmeetings.com/meet, select interview, and you could be the next guest here on the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast. We will see you next time.
Don't we start people and